Captain Jake Sullivan stared at the empty space where New Haven Colony should have been. The planet still hung in orbit around its star, but something was terribly wrong. No lights glowed on the night side. No radio signals filled the communication channels. The massive agricultural domes that once fed 3 neighboring systems were dark and silent. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy weapon residue in the atmosphere," reported Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez from the sensor station. His voice carried a tension that made everyone on the bridge of the UTS Aurora turn to listen. The pattern suggests systematic bombardment of civilian areas. Jake felt his stomach drop. New Haven had been home to 50,000 people. Farmers, teachers, engineers, children. They had chosen the quiet life on the frontier, growing food and building a peaceful community far from the busy trade routes. They had no military installations, no strategic resources, nothing that would make them a target in any reasonable conflict. "Take us into orbit," Jake ordered. "Full sensor sweep. I want to know what happened here." Dr. Amy Chun rushed onto the bridge, her medical scanner already in hand. She was the best forensic specialist in the fleet, called in whenever something went wrong on the outer colonies. But as she looked at the sensor readings, her face went pale. "Captain, these aren't battle damage patterns," she said quietly. "This is something else entirely." The Aurora moved closer to the planet's surface. Through the main viewer, they could see the burned remains of cities and farms. The agricultural domes had been deliberately targeted and destroyed. Even the schools and hospitals showed direct weapon impacts. This wasn't a military strike. This was murder. "Sir, picking up a weak signal from the surface," called out Communications Officer Lisa Morgan. "It's automated, probably from an emergency beacon." "Put it through," Jake said. The bridge filled with static. Then a terrified voice broke through. "This is Mayor Robert Hayes of Haven City. We are under attack by unknown forces. They're targeting civilians. I repeat, they are deliberately targeting civilian shelters, our children. Oh God, they're targeting the schools first. This is not a military action. This is genocide. If anyone receives this message, tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we tried to surrender. Tell them they wouldn't let us." The message cut off abruptly. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Jake had served in the military for 20 years. He had seen battles, disasters, even terrorist attacks. But this was different. This was evil in its purest form. "Get me everything," he ordered. "Weapon signatures, ship residue, DNA traces, anything that can tell us who did this." Ben worked frantically at his station. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple weapon types, all energy-based. The signatures match hegemony technology. Zephyr design patterns." Jake's hands clenched into fists. The hegemony of Zephyr was a military alliance of 6 alien species that controlled territory along the outer rim. They were known for their aggressive expansion tactics, but they had never attacked human settlements before. There had been territorial disputes, but nothing like this. Amy's scanner beeped as she analyzed atmospheric samples. "Captain, I'm detecting traces of a specific isotope used in Zephyr fusion weapons. But these readings show they used far more firepower than necessary to destroy military targets. They were making sure nothing survived." "How long ago?" Jake asked. "Based on radiation decay, approximately 6 hours. We just missed them." Jake turned to Lisa at Communications. "Send a priority message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we need Admiral Paul Carter and the Defense Council immediately. And get me a secure channel to Intelligence Director Kate Williams." While Lisa worked on the communications, Jake studied the tactical display. The attack had been carefully planned. The hegemony ships had jumped in simultaneously at multiple points around the planet. They had targeted civilian infrastructure first, then methodically destroyed anything that could provide shelter or hope. This wasn't the work of rogue commanders or extremist groups. This was official policy. "Captain, Admiral Carter is on Secure Channel 1, Lisa reported. Jake moved to his private office behind the bridge. Admiral Carter's weathered face appeared on the screen, his expression already grim. "Jake, please tell me this isn't as bad as your initial report suggested." "It's worse, sir. This wasn't a military action. They committed genocide. 50,000 civilians, including children, deliberately murdered. And based on the attack patterns, they enjoyed doing it." Carter's jaw tightened. "Any survivors?" "None that we can detect. They were thorough." "What about other colonies?" "Have you checked the neighboring systems?" Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Sir, are you saying this might not be an isolated incident? Intelligence has been tracking unusual hegemony fleet movements for the past 6 months. We thought they were conducting military exercises. Now I'm wondering if they were positioning for multiple strikes." The screen split as Director Kate Williams joined the conversation. Her usually calm demeanor was replaced by barely controlled anger. "Captain Sullivan, we've just confirmed attacks on 16 other human colonies in the past 6 months. Same pattern, same weapons, same complete destruction of civilian populations." Jake sat down heavily. 17 colonies. Nearly 1 million people. All dead. All murdered for no military reason. Why weren't we told about the other attacks? Jake asked. Kate's expression darkened. "Because we were hoping they were isolated. Incidents. Random pirate attacks, territorial disputes gone wrong. Anything except what they actually were. We didn't want to believe that a major galactic power would commit genocide against human civilians." Admiral Carter leaned forward. "Jake, I need you to document everything. Every piece of evidence, every sensor reading, every trace of what happened there. We're going to present this to the Galactic Council, and I want absolute proof of what the hegemony has done." "Sir, what about military response?" "We can't let them murder our people without consequences." Carter and Williams exchanged a look that made Jake's blood run cold. "Captain, for 300 years, humanity has built its reputation on being the civilized species in this galaxy," Carter said slowly. "We follow galactic law. We seek diplomatic solutions. We mediate conflicts instead of starting them. That reputation has served us well. But, sir, they're committing genocide." "I know. And that's exactly why we need to handle this through proper channels first. The Galactic Council has procedures for dealing with war crimes. We'll present our evidence, demand justice, and trust that the civilized galaxy will respond appropriately." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew his duty. "Understood, sir. We'll compile everything and send it through official channels." After the call ended, Jake returned to the bridge. His crew was still working to document the massacre, but he could see the anger in their faces. These weren't just statistics to them. They all had friends and family on the frontier colonies. This could have been any of their loved ones that Amy approached with her final report. "Captain, I've completed the forensic analysis. The attack was designed to maximize terror and suffering. They could have destroyed the colony quickly, but instead they drew it out over several hours. They wanted the people to know they were being murdered." Ben looked up from his station. "Sir, I've traced the hegemony fleet's trajectory after the attack. They jumped to coordinates that would put them near the Olympus Station shipping lanes." Jake's blood turned to ice. Olympus Station was one of humanity's largest civilian installations, home to 2 million people. If the hegemony was moving in that direction, they might be planning an even larger massacre. "Get me Admiral Carter again," Jake ordered. "And prepare to break orbit. If they're heading for Olympus Station, we need to warn them immediately." As the Aurora prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Jake took one last look at the dead world below. 50,000 innocent people had died here, murdered simply for being human. The hegemony had made their choice. Now humanity would have to make theirs. The civilized approach had failed to protect these people. Jake wondered how long it would be before Earth realized that sometimes civilization wasn't enough to stop monsters. Sometimes you had to become something else entirely. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood before the Galactic Council with evidence that should have shocked the civilized galaxy into action. Holographic displays showed the burned colonies, the murdered children, the systematic destruction of human settlements. The proof was undeniable. The hegemony of Zefter had committed genocide against innocent civilians. Yet the vast assembly hall remained eerily quiet. 300 species sat in their designated seats, representing the collective wisdom and morality of galactic civilization. But as Lisa presented her case, she saw something that chilled her more than the images of dead worlds. She saw indifference. "Honored delegates," Lisa said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "we present irrefutable evidence that the hegemony has systematically murdered over 1 million human civilians across 17 colonies. This is not warfare. This is genocide. We ask for justice under galactic law." The Veltar Republic's representative, a tall blue-skinned alien named Ambassador Thex, finally spoke. "While these incidents are regrettable, the Veltar Republic cannot involve itself in territorial disputes between species. We must remain neutral in such matters." Lisa felt her composure crack slightly. Territorial disputes. Ambassador Thex, they murdered children in their schools. They targeted hospitals and civilian shelters. How is this a territorial dispute? But Thex had already activated his delegation's abstention signal. One by one, humanity's supposed allies followed suit. The Crystalline Concordat, the Stellar Federation, even the Peaceful Alliance of Worlds, all abstained from taking any action. Representative Korth of the Draconian Empire went even further. Perhaps if humans weren't so aggressive in their expansion, such conflicts could be avoided. The galaxy was peaceful before humans arrived with their territorial ambitions. Lisa stared at the alien in disbelief. Aggressive expansion? We're farmers and traders. Our colonies grow food and manufacture civilian goods. What threat could agricultural settlements possibly pose? Your species breeds rapidly and spreads across multiple systems, Korth replied coldly. Some species find this ... concerning. The horrible truth began to dawn on Lisa. The Galactic Council wasn't ignoring the genocide because they didn't understand it. They were ignoring it because they secretly approved of it. Humanity's rapid expansion and successful colonies had made other species nervous. The hegemony had simply done what many others wished they could do. After the session ended in failure, Lisa returned to her quarters and opened a secure communication channel to Earth. President Helen Brooks appeared on the screen, her face already showing the strain of the past few weeks. "They won't act," Lisa reported. "Worse than that, some of them think we deserved it." President Brooks closed her eyes for a moment. 300 years, Lisa. 300 years of following their laws, respecting their customs, mediating their conflicts. And when we need them most, they abandon us. "Ma'am, there's something else." I intercepted communications between several delegations after the session. They're not just ignoring the genocide. They're quietly pleased about it. They see it as a solution to what they call the human problem. The president's expression hardened. "Get back to Earth immediately. We need to discuss new options." Lisa's ship made the journey to Earth in record time. She arrived to find the Global Defense Council in emergency session. Admiral Carter was presenting classified military assessments, while Director Williams shared intelligence reports that painted an even darker picture. "The hegemony isn't finished," Williams reported. "Our deep cover agents have intercepted their planning sessions. They're treating this as the first phase of complete human extinction. They plan to eliminate every human settlement outside the Sol system within the next 2 years. General Lisa Stone stepped forward. Ma'am, we need to discuss military options. Our current defensive posture assumes we'll have galactic support in any major conflict. That assumption is now invalid. President Brooks studied the tactical displays. General, give me an honest assessment. If we abandon diplomatic solutions and respond militarily, what are our chances? Against the hegemony alone? We'd win decisively within 6 months. Against the hegemony with galactic support? Much more difficult. Against the entire galaxy, if they decide we're a threat? That's a different conversation entirely. Admiral Carter activated a classified presentation. Ma'am, there's something the public doesn't know about our military capabilities. During our 3 centuries of peaceful expansion, we never stopped preparing for the possibility of total war. The display showed hidden military installations throughout human space. Asteroid bases, concealed shipyards, weapons development facilities disguised as research stations. Humanity had built the infrastructure for massive military production while maintaining the appearance of a peaceful trading civilization. Every colony ship was equipped with defensive systems that could be rapidly upgraded to military specifications. Carter continued, every trading post has weapons caches. Every diplomatic facility has contingency plans for conversion to military command centers. Commander Rick Hayes of Special Forces added his own intelligence. Ma'am, we've been monitoring every major galactic military for potential threats. We know their capabilities, their weaknesses, their command structures. Most importantly, we know something they don't know about themselves. Which is, they've never fought a species that matches their level of ruthlessness when threatened. The galaxy has been peaceful for so long that most species have forgotten what total war actually means. They negotiate, they posture, they engage in limited conflicts with specific objectives. But none of them have the psychological capacity for the kind of warfare that humanity used against itself during the World Wars or the AI Rebellion. Dr. Amy Chun had been quiet during the briefing, but now she spoke up. With respect, Commander, are we talking about becoming the very thing we've spent centuries proving we're not? No, Doctor. We're talking about revealing what we've always been underneath our civilized exterior. The hegemony made a fatal error. They assumed our peaceful nature was weakness. They don't understand that our greatest strength has always been our restraint. President Brooks walked to the window, overlooking the sprawling capital city. Below, millions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their species stood at a crossroads. They could continue being the galaxy's mediators and peacekeepers, accepting genocide as the price of maintaining their reputation. Or they could show the universe why humanity had conquered their own world before reaching for the stars. Director Williams, what's the latest intelligence on hegemony leadership? They're celebrating, ma'am. Our intercepts show them joking about human weakness and planning celebration, ceremonies for the cleansing of inferior species. They genuinely believe we'll continue filing diplomatic protests while they murder our people. And our allies? Privately relieved that someone else solved their human problem for them, publicly maintaining the fiction that they support diplomatic solutions. President Brooks turned back to face the council. Gentlemen, for 300 years we've been the civilized species in this galaxy. We've followed their laws, honored their treaties, and sought peaceful solutions to every conflict. We've proven that humanity can be trusted, that we're not the violent barbarians our own history might suggest. She paused, looking at each person in the room. But there's something our galactic neighbors never understood. We chose to be civilized. We weren't forced into it by weakness or inability to defend ourselves. We chose restraint because we believed it was right. Admiral Carter leaned forward. Ma'am, are you authorizing military action? I'm authorizing something more than that, Admiral. The hegemony wants to test whether humanity will fight for survival. Our supposed allies want to see if we'll quietly accept extinction to maintain our reputation for peacefulness. They're all about to learn something very important about human nature. President Brooks activated the emergency broadcast system that would carry her words to every human settlement in the galaxy. My fellow humans, for 3 centuries, we have been proud to be known as the civilized species. We have followed galactic law, sought peaceful solutions, and built our reputation on restraint and diplomacy. Today, that changes. She looked directly into the camera. The hegemony of Zephyr has chosen genocide as their policy toward humanity. They have murdered over 1 million of our people, including children, and plan to exterminate our entire species. The Galactic Council has refused to act. Our allies have abandoned us. We are alone. The President's voice grew stronger, but we are not helpless. For 300 years, we chose to be civilized not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to show restraint. That restraint ends now. The hegemony wanted to see what happens when humans stop being cultured. They're about to find out. As the broadcast ended, President Brooks turned to her military commanders. Gentlemen, prepare Operation Reckoning. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is capable of when we stop trying to be the good guys. The Global Defense Council chamber had never seen a gathering like this. Every major military commander, intelligence director, and strategic planner sat around the massive table as President Brooks outlined humanity's response to genocide. Holographic displays showed star maps marked with red zones, every known hegemony position and asset across 17 star systems. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to cross a line that we've avoided for 3 centuries, the President began. We are about to stop being the civilized species and become something our enemies will understand much better. The question before U.S. is simple. Do we respond proportionally to their attacks, or do we respond proportionally to their intentions? Admiral Carter stood and activated the tactical display. Ma'am, Operation Reckoning has 3 phases. Phase 1 eliminates their military capacity. Phase 2 destroys their industrial base. Phase 3 removes their ability to threaten any species ever again. Explain Phase 3, Admiral. Complete dismantling of hegemony political and military leadership. Occupation of their core worlds. Dissolution of their government and redistribution of their territory to species they've oppressed. In simple terms, we erase the hegemony from existence as a political entity. General Stone added her assessment. Ma'am, our war simulations show we can accomplish all 3 phases within 6 months using conventional weapons. However, the psychological impact on the galaxy will be enormous. No one has seen humanity wage total war since our early colonial period. Director Williams presented intelligence gathered from deep cover operations. The hegemony leadership is currently planning celebration ceremonies for what they call Phase 1 of human elimination. Their internal communications show they expected used to file more diplomatic protests while they prepared for larger attacks. They've scheduled strikes against New Terra and Olympus Station for next month. President Brooks studied the intelligence reports. They plan to murder 4 million more people, and they're celebrating the million they've already killed. Yes, ma'am, they see genocide as entertainment. Commander Hayes stepped forward with Special Forces assessments. Ma'am, we've identified every hegemony leader involved in planning the genocides. We can eliminate their entire command structure simultaneously if given authorization. How simultaneously? Every major leader, every military commander, every government official who participated in or approved the genocide, all eliminated within a coordinated 12-hour window across their entire territory. Dr. Chun looked uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Mr. President, Are we discussing assassination of government officials? That violates every treaty we've signed regarding civilized warfare. President Brooks turned to face the doctor. Amy, they murdered children in schools. They targeted hospitals. They deliberately prolonged the suffering of entire colonies for entertainment. What part of that suggests they deserve the protection of civilized warfare conventions? I understand the anger, ma'am, but if we abandon our principles, how are we different from them? We're different because we didn't start this, Commander Hayes answered. We're different because we're not targeting their civilians. We're different because when this war ends, we'll stop killing and help them rebuild. But most importantly, we're different because we're doing this to prevent genocide, not commit it. General Stone activated a new set of displays showing human military assets that had been hidden for centuries. Ma'am, during our 300 years of peaceful expansion, we've maintained what we call dormant defense infrastructure. Every major trade route has concealed military bases. Every mining operation includes weapons manufacturing. Every diplomatic post can become a military command center within hours. The scale of the hidden military preparation was staggering. Asteroid bases equipped with shipyards that could produce entire fleets. Manufacturing facilities disguised as civilian industries that could switch to weapons production instantly. Even the peaceful agricultural colonies had underground defense networks that could resist invasion for months. How long have we been preparing for this? President Brooks asked. Since first contact with alien civilizations, Admiral Carter replied. Our leadership has always known that humanity's survival might eventually depend on our ability to wage total war. We hoped it would never be necessary, but we prepared for it anyway. Director Williams presented the most classified intelligence. Ma'am, we've been monitoring every major galactic civilization for potential threats. We know their military capabilities better than they do. More importantly, we've identified their critical weaknesses, such as none of them have experience fighting a species that will sacrifice everything for principles. The galaxy has been peaceful for so long that most civilizations negotiate rather than fight to the death. They surrender when the cost becomes too high. They don't have the psychological conditioning for total war. President Brooks walked around the table, looking at each advisor. I need to understand exactly what we're proposing. We're not just talking about military retaliation. We're talking about demonstrating to the entire galaxy that humanity is capable of complete destruction when pushed beyond certain limits. Yes, ma'am, General Stone confirmed. The message needs to be clear. Genocide against humans results in extinction for the perpetrators. And what about our reputation? 3 centuries of building trust and diplomatic relationships? Admiral Carter answered grimly. Ma'am, our reputation for peacefulness just got 1 million of our people killed. Maybe it's time for a new reputation. Director Williams presented intercepted communications from various galactic civilizations. Ma'am, several species are privately discussing whether the hegemony approach might be worth copying. They're watching to see if humans will actually defend themselves or just file more protests. The president felt a chill run down her spine. They're treating this as a test case for whether genocide against humans is acceptable. Yes, ma'am. If we respond with diplomacy and law enforcement, other species may decide that humans are acceptable targets. If we respond with overwhelming force, they'll reconsider that position very quickly. Commander Hayes presented psychological profiles of hegemony leadership. Ma'am, their entire culture is built around dominance through terror. They've never faced an enemy that could match their level of ruthlessness. Their military doctrine assumes enemies will surrender when faced with atrocities. They have no contingency plans for fighting a species that becomes more determined rather than less determined when their civilians are attacked. You're saying they don't understand how humans respond to threats against our families. Exactly. They think terrorizing our civilians will make us more likely to surrender. They don't realize it guarantees we'll fight until either they're extinct or we are. President Brooks made her decision. Gentlemen, I'm authorizing Operation Reckoning with full implementation of all 3 phases. However, I want specific modifications. She turned to Admiral Carter. I want clear communication to every hegemony world before we begin. They need to understand exactly why this is happening and what they could have done to prevent it. Yes. Ma'am, I want documentation of every action we take. History needs to record that we gave them every opportunity to choose differently. General Stone nodded. Understood. Most importantly, I want the galaxy to understand that this is not aggression. This is consequence. The hegemony chose genocide. We're simply demonstrating a natural result of that choice. Director Williams asked the critical question. Ma'am, what about galactic reaction? Other species may see this as evidence that humans are dangerous. President Brooks smiled grimly. Kate, other species just watched 1 million humans get murdered, while their representatives sat quietly in council chambers. Maybe being seen as dangerous is exactly what we need right now. She activated the command authorization system. Ladies and gentlemen, for 300 years humanity has been the galaxy's peacekeeper. We've mediated conflicts, prevented wars, and maintained stability through diplomacy and restraint. But there's something our galactic neighbors never understood about that role. The President entered her authorization codes. Peacekeepers aren't peaceful because they're weak. They're peaceful because they're strong enough to end conflicts permanently, if necessary. The hegemony wanted to test that strength. They're about to discover why every other species in the galaxy preferred our diplomatic approach. As the authorization completed, alert signals went out to hidden military bases throughout human space. Ships that had posed as cargo vessels for decades began revealing their true nature. Weapons systems disguised as industrial equipment came online. Personnel who had lived civilian lives for years reported to military commanders they'd never openly acknowledged. President Brooks addressed her commanders one final time. The hegemony made their choice when they decided genocide was acceptable. Now we make ours. Show the galaxy what happens when humans stop being cultured. Show them why our restraint was never weakness. It was mercy they didn't deserve and won't receive again. Operation Reckoning began at exactly 04, Universal Standard, time across 17 star systems simultaneously. Captain Jake Sullivan, now commanding the retrofitted dreadnought UTS Aurora, led the first wave of attacks against hegemony military installations. What the aliens had dismissed as a simple exploration vessel revealed its true nature as one of humanity's most advanced warships. Target acquired, reported Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez from the weapons console. Hegemony Fleet Headquarters, Zephyr Prime System. Jake watched the tactical display as 3 hegemony battlecruisers moved to intercept his small task force. The alien commanders probably expected another diplomatic protest, or at most a limited military response. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Fire. The Aurora's hidden weapons systems revealed themselves in a blaze of energy that vaporized the first battlecruiser instantly. The gravitational weapons that humanity had developed in secret tore through hegemony shields like they were made of paper. Within minutes, all 3 enemy ships were expanding clouds of debris. Hegemony Fleet Command is broadcasting surrender requests, Rodriguez reported. Ignore them, Jake ordered. They had their chance to surrender when they started murdering children. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human forces struck with precision and overwhelming power. Admiral Paul Carter coordinated the broader campaign from the UTS Retribution, watching as centuries of hidden military preparation revealed itself to a shocked universe. Status report from all task forces, Carter requested. Task Force Alpha. has eliminated 6 hegemony fleet bases, came the first report. No human casualties. Task Force Beta reports complete destruction of hegemony shipbuilding facilities in the Rigel sector. Task Force Gamma has neutralized all military installations in the Vega system. Carter smiled grimly. The first phase was proceeding exactly as planned. The hegemony's military was being systematically destroyed, but the aliens still didn't understand what they were facing. Commander Rick Hayes led the most sensitive part of the operation from his stealth ship deep in hegemony territory. His special forces teams had spent months infiltrating alien worlds, identifying every leader who had participated in planning the genocide. Now they struck with surgical precision. Team 7 reports successful elimination of General Frack and his entire command staff. Hayes heard through his earpiece. Team 3 has completed the strike on the Hegemony Defense Council. All targets neutralized. Team 12 confirms elimination of Admiral Zoc and the battle fleet commanders. Within 12 hours, the entire hegemony command structure ceased to exist. Every military leader, government official, and bureaucrat who had participated in or approved the genocide against humanity was dead. The aliens who had celebrated human weakness discovered too late what human efficiency looked like when applied to warfare. But the hegemony still didn't understand. Their remaining leaders attempted to use their old tactics, launching terrorist attacks against human civilian targets. They attacked medical stations, destroyed trading posts, and killed unarmed colonists. They expected these atrocities to force humanity to negotiate. General Lisa Stone's response was swift and decisive. For every human civilian facility attacked, 10 hegemony military installations were obliterated. For every human civilian killed, 100 hegemony soldiers died. The message was brutally clear. Escalation would be met with disproportionate retaliation. Sir, hegemony forces are targeting the civilian transport New Hope, reported Captain Sullivan's communications officer. How many civilians aboard? 300, sir. Mostly families returning from the outer colonies. Jake felt the familiar rage that had driven him since discovering the massacre at New Haven. Fire control. Target every hegemony ship in the system. I want them vaporized. Sir, that's 12 ships including 2 civilian transports. The civilian transports are providing targeting data for their military. They chose to participate in attacking our people. Destroy them all. The engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. When it ended, the New Hope continued safely on its journey, while 12 hegemony ships became expanding clouds of superheated plasma. Doctor Amy Chun documented the psychological impact of the human response from her position aboard the command ship. Admiral, I'm reading panic across all hegemony communication channels. Their leaders are requesting emergency sessions with various galactic governments. What kind of requests? They're asking for mediation, offering to negotiate, even suggesting they might consider reparations for the colonies they destroyed. Admiral. Carter laughed without humor. 3 months ago, they were planning celebration ceremonies for genocide. Now they want to negotiate? Sir, there's something else. Several hegemony military units are surrendering without engaging our forces. They're claiming they were following orders and had no choice in the attacks on human colonies. What's our response protocol for surrender? General Stone answered from her position at the tactical display. Simple. We accept surrender from units that never participated in attacks on civilians. Anyone who is involved in the genocide is eliminated regardless of surrender attempts. The distinction was critical. Human forces weren't engaged in indiscriminate slaughter. They were conducting precise elimination of everyone responsible for genocide, while protecting those who had played no part in the atrocities. It was the difference between justice and revenge, though the end result for the hegemony leadership was the same. Director Kate Williams monitored galactic reactions from her intelligence post. Admiral, We're receiving communications from multiple species, requesting information about our military capabilities. What kind of information? They want to know how many ships we have, what our maximum military production capacity is, and whether we consider them potential threats. Carter understood immediately. They're trying to figure out if they could survive what we're doing to the hegemony. Exactly. Several species that abstained from helping us in the Galactic Council are now requesting immediate diplomatic meetings. Tell them we're busy. The industrial capacity that humanity had hidden for centuries revealed itself as asteroid mining operations became weapons factories and civilian shipyards began producing military vessels at an unprecedented rate. The galaxy watched in growing alarm as human fleets appeared seemingly from nowhere, their technology more advanced than anyone had realized. Captain Sullivan received new orders as his task force finished eliminating the last hegemony military installations in the Outer Rim. Jake, this is Admiral Carter. Proceed to Phase 2 targets. It's time to dismantle their ability to rebuild. Understood, sir. Beginning strikes on industrial targets. The Aurora led its task force toward the hegemony's largest manufacturing world. Below them, millions of alien civilians went about their daily lives, unaware that their government's genocide had doomed their entire civilization. Sir, detecting massive industrial complexes across the northern continent, Rodriguez reported. Shipbuilding, weapons manufacturing, and heavy machinery production. Are there civilian areas mixed in with the industrial zones? Yes, sir. Residential districts throughout the manufacturing sectors. Jake studied the tactical display. This was the test of whether humanity would become the monsters they were fighting. The easy solution was orbital bombardment that would destroy everything, civilian and military alike. The hard solution was precision strikes that eliminated only military-relevant industry while protecting innocent lives. Target only the industrial facilities. Use precision weapons. I want 0 civilian casualties. Sir, that will take much longer and expose us to more risk. I don't care. We're not the hegemony. We don't murder civilians. The attack took 6 hours instead of 6 minutes, but when it ended, the hegemony's largest industrial center was reduced to scrap metal while the residential areas remained untouched. Human rescue teams even provided medical aid to injured civilians caught in the industrial zone during working hours. Similar scenes played out across hegemony territory as human forces systematically dismantled their enemies' capacity for warfare, while demonstrating the precision and restraint that the aliens had never shown. The message was clear. Humanity could have chosen genocide just as easily as the hegemony had. Instead, they chose justice. Admiral, this is Director Williams. We're intercepting communications from hegemony civilian populations. They're beginning to understand what their government did and why humans are responding this way. What's their reaction? Many are expressing support for our actions. They're saying their government brought this on themselves by committing genocide. Admiral. Carter nodded. Good. When this is over, they'll need new leadership. Better if that leadership comes from people who understand why genocide was the wrong choice. As Phase 2 neared completion, the hegemony of Zephyr ceased to exist as a military power. Their fleets were destroyed, their weapons factories reduced to rubble, their command structure eliminated. What remained was a collection of defeated worlds waiting to learn what humanity planned for Phase 3. 6 months after Operation Reckoning began, Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Aurora as it entered orbit around what had once been the capital world of the hegemony. Below them, reconstruction crews worked alongside former enemy populations to build something that had never existed before, a government that would never again choose genocide as policy. Sir, we're receiving a communication from the surface, reported Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez. It's from the new Provisional Council. Put it through. The screen showed a group of aliens from various hegemony species, but their manner was completely different from the arrogant leaders who had planned human extinction. These beings looked tired, chastened, and genuinely remorseful. Captain Sullivan. This is Counselor Vex of the Provisional Government. We wanted to personally thank you for your restraint during the occupation. Jake studied the alien's face. Counselor, we didn't show restraint. We showed justice. There's a difference. Yes, sir? That's something we're learning to understand. Your forces could have done to us what our government did to your colonies. Instead, you've helped us rebuild while ensuring we can never threaten anyone again. The transformation of the former hegemony worlds had been unprecedented in Galactic Inc. History. Human occupation forces had systematically dismantled the military caste system that had made genocide possible while protecting civilian populations and helping establish democratic governments. It was occupation with a purpose, preventing future atrocities. Admiral Paul Carter monitored the broader galactic situation from Earth Defense Command. The response to humanity's display of military power had been immediate and dramatic. Every major civilization in the galaxy had requested diplomatic meetings. Trade agreements that had been stalled for years were suddenly approved overnight. Territorial disputes that had seemed intractable were resolved in humanity's favor without negotiation. Director Williams, what's the current status of our galactic relationships? Carter asked during the daily briefing. Completely transformed, sir. Species that abstained from helping us during the genocide are now competing to offer military alliances. The Veltar Republic has offered to station their fleet under human command. The Crystalline Concordat wants to establish joint military bases. And our response? President Brooks has been very clear. We're willing to work with civilizations that demonstrate actual commitment to preventing genocide. Empty promises and diplomatic rhetoric are no longer sufficient. Dr. Amy Chun presented her analysis of the psychological impact on galactic civilization. Admiral, we're seeing a fundamental shift in how other species view conflict resolution. The old model of prolonged negotiations and limited responses to atrocities has been replaced by what they're calling the human standard, which is genocide results in extinction of the perpetrators. No negotiations, no diplomatic solutions, no half measures. Other species are adapting their own military doctrines to account for this new reality. Commander Rick Hayes added his intelligence. Assessment. Sir, we're detecting increased military spending among major galactic powers, but not for offensive purposes. Everyone is building defensive capabilities designed to deter attacks on civilian populations. Admiral Carter nodded with satisfaction. They're preparing to prevent genocide because they've seen what happens when it occurs. Ambassador Lisa Morgan returned from her tour of galactic capitals with remarkable news. Admiral, the Galactic Council has unanimously passed the Human Protection Act and the Genocide Prevention Treaty. Any attack on civilian populations now triggers automatic military response from all member species. What changed their minds? They realized that humanity's response to the hegemony wasn't an aberration. It was a demonstration of what we'll do every time genocide occurs, regardless of who commits it. They decided they'd rather prevent atrocities than explain to their populations why human fleets are destroying their worlds. President Brooks addressed the transformed galactic situation in a speech to the Global Defense Council. Ladies and gentlemen, 6 months ago, we were the species that everyone ignored when genocide occurred. Today, we're the species that everyone fears to cross and respects enough to emulate. She activated displays showing the current state of human space. Our colonies are expanding again, but now they're protected by more than just galactic law. They're protected by the certain knowledge that attacking human civilians means extinction for the attackers. General Lisa Stone presented the new military doctrine that had emerged from Operation Reckoning. Ma'am, we've established what we call consequence architecture throughout human space. Every potential enemy knows exactly what will happen if they cross certain lines. There's no ambiguity, no room for miscalculation. Explain. Military attacks on human forces result in military retaliation. Attacks on human civilians result in complete destruction of the attacking civilization. It's simple, clear, and everyone understands it. Director Williams shared the long-term intelligence assessment. Ma'am, we're seeing something unprecedented in galactic history. Peace through demonstrated capability for total war. Other species aren't avoiding conflict because they're more civilized now. They're avoiding it because they've seen what happens when civilization fails. Captain Sullivan's voice came through from the former hegemony capital. Earth Control, this is Aurora. The last of the provisional governments has been established. Former hegemony space is now divided among 7 democratic republics, each with constitutional prohibitions against military action targeting civilians. What about their military capacity? Limited to system defense only. They've voluntarily destroyed their capacity for interstellar military operations. They never want to risk triggering another human response. President Brooks smiled. Captain, prepare to return to Earth. Your mission is complete. But Jake had one more report. Ma'am, there's something else. The new governments have requested permission to establish memorial sites at each location where they attacked human colonies. They want their children to understand what their old government did and why it could never be allowed to happen again. The President felt a moment of genuine satisfaction. Permission granted, Captain. And Jake, well done. As the Aurora prepared to return to human space, Jake reflected on the transformation that had occurred. The galaxy had learned a fundamental lesson about human nature. For 3 centuries, humanity had chosen to be civilized, peaceful, and restrained. Other species had mistaken that choice for weakness. Now they understood the truth. Humanity's peaceful nature wasn't a limitation. It was a choice they made every day. And when that choice was no longer sufficient to protect innocent life, humanity was capable of becoming something entirely different. Dr. Chun joined Jake on the bridge as they prepared for the journey home. Captain, do you think we did the right thing? Jake looked at the peaceful world below, where former enemies were building democratic governments that would never again choose genocide. Amy, 1 million innocent people died because we tried to solve this problem with diplomacy and law. How many innocent people have died because we solved it with overwhelming force? None. Then yes, we did the right thing. The Aurora jumped too. Faster than light speed, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned the most important lesson in its history. Humanity would always prefer peace, diplomacy, and civilized solutions to conflict. But when those solutions failed to protect innocent life, humanity was prepared to become whatever was necessary to ensure that genocide never succeeded. The hegemony had wanted to test whether humans would fight for survival. They got their answer. But more importantly, every other species in the galaxy got that answer too. The result was the most stable peace in galactic history, built not on law or morality, but on the certain knowledge that some lines should never be crossed. President Brooks concluded her address to humanity with words that would be remembered. Throughout the galaxy, we chose to be civilized because we believed civilization was stronger than barbarity. When civilization failed to protect our people, we chose to be something else. Now the galaxy understands that our choice to be peaceful was never weakness. It was mercy they didn't deserve and won't forget. The era of testing humanity's resolve was over. The era of earned respect through demonstrated capability had begun. And throughout the galaxy, the phrase human response became synonymous with the understanding that some crimes against innocence would always result in total consequences for those who committed them. Humanity had stopped being cultured. just long enough to ensure that civilization could continue to exist.